At 3 a.m. on June 6, 2025, 17 Ukrainian OSA drones silently approached Engels Air Base, the heart of Russia's nuclear bomber fleet. They had flown 750 kilometers over hostile territory for 6 hours without GPS, without communication, and fully autonomous for the last 30 minutes. These weren't million-dollar weapons, but small machines built from cheap components, guided by AI trained on thousands of satellite images. No radar picked them up. No human saw them coming. In just a few minutes, they would challenge everything the world thought it knew about modern warfare. The lead drone's thermal camera locks onto the fuel depot, its grainy 640 by 480 image feeding directly into an onboard neural network. This isn't guesswork, it's precision. Trained on over 10,000 satellite images of the Crystal depot, the AI doesn't just recognize the facility, it understands it. It maps out tank locations, pipeline layouts, and heat signatures. 4 large fuel tanks glow white-hot against the cool background. A quick temperature analysis reveals one anomaly. Tank 4 reads 15.7 degrees, significantly hotter than the others. Tank number 7, 12.1 degrees. Tank number 12, 11.8 degrees. Tank 1, 13.2 degrees. That 3.6 degrees difference signals fresh fuel, high vapor pressure, maximum volatile lace. There's no central command, no radio link, no voting system. Each of the 17 drones comes to the same decision. Tank 4 must be hit first, and they act with perfect coordination. Every drone assigns itself a unique bearing of approach, offset by just 5 degrees from the next. Drone 1 attacks from 270 degrees, Drone 2 from 275 degrees, and so on. This staggered pattern creates overlapping blast zones while avoiding mid-air collisions. It's like 17 people throwing rocks at the same target from different angles, close enough to hit hard, but spaced to avoid interference. The AI handles this with zero communication, just shared programming and perfect timing. It's not just synchronized, it's distributed intelligence at work. At 10 kilometers out, the formation begins to evolve. What was once a loose swarm now shifts into a precise attack pattern. The AI onboard each drone calculates optimal impact angles based on the fuel tank's structural vulnerabilities. 7 drones ascend to 80 meters, preparing to strike from above where the steel roofing is thinnest. 5 remain at 50 meters to target the upper tank walls, where fuel vapors concentrate. The remaining 5 drop to 30 meters, aiming for the lower sections where welds are weakest. Each drone moves into position independently, without communication, yet flawlessly synchronized. This isn't instinct, it's pre-programmed strategy executed with algorithmic discipline and machine-level timing. The first line of defense is a $500 million S-400 missile system stationed 3 kilometers from the fuel depot. On paper, it can intercept ballistic missiles, stealth aircraft, and low-flying cruise missiles. But physics doesn't read brochures. At the drone's current altitude, just 50 meters, the S-400 radar can't detect them until they're within 28 kilometers, and that's under ideal conditions. Tonight, temperature inversions and ground clutter from buildings reduce that range to barely 20 kilometers. Radar waves struggle to look down through heat pockets, trees, and rooftops. By the time the system picks up the drones, only minutes remain. It's enough to track a single jet, not a silent, scattered swarm flying below the radar horizon. The S-400's engagement computer scans its threat library, tens of thousands of aircraft and missile signatures compiled over decades. It knows what a fighter jet looks like at 50 miles. It can identify a cruise missile hugging the terrain, but a plastic quadcopter flying at 50 meters with the radar cross-section of a bird, that doesn't match anything. The system labels it as unknown or low priority. It's not just a visibility issue, it's a classification problem. The software wasn't designed to prioritize something so small, slow, and simple. As a result, the drones slip through the filters, invisible not because they're stealthy, but because they fall outside the very definition of a threat. Surrounding the fuel depot are 4 Pantsir S-1 systems, each armed with 12 missiles and twin 30mm cannons. On promotional videos, they knock cruise missiles out of the sky with ease. But reality is different. The radar on the Pantsir requires a minimum radar cross-section, RCS, of 0.1 square meters to lock onto a target. The OSA drones register at just 0.01 square meters, 10 times smaller. Even when the thermal imagers spot a drone, engaging it is a nightmare. The 57E6 missiles need continuous radar guidance, but locking onto a plastic drone is like trying to shine a flashlight on a shadow. The system flickers, loses lock, and reacquires too late. The drones simply don't fit the rules of the game. To protect against drone attacks, the Russians deployed Pol 21 GPS jamming systems around the base, flooding the area with fake satellite signals to confuse any incoming navigation. It's a strong defense against drones that rely on GPS. But the OSA drones don't. They navigate like it's 1943, magnetic compasses, gyroscopes, and dead reckoning. There's nothing to jam because there's no signal to disrupt. The electronic warfare systems, so effective against modern Western drones, are useless here. It's like trying to crash a bicycle by hacking its Bluetooth. The Russian defenses were built to blind high-tech eyes, but the OSA drones are flying blind already. And that's exactly what makes them unstoppable. The fuel depot at Engels wasn't designed for drone warfare. It was built in the 1960s for a different era. 12 massive cylindrical tanks, each 20 meters in diameter and holding 2,000 tons of aviation fuel, were spaced 30 meters apart. Back then, that distance seemed safe. Close enough for maintenance crews to share equipment, far enough to prevent one explosion from igniting another. But that logic assumed steel bombs dropped from high-altitude bombers, not precision drone strikes with shaped charges. The automated fire suppression system, though impressive on paper, was built for isolated fires, not simultaneous detonations. Green lights in the control room glowed confidently, but they couldn't show the rusted nozzles or expired foam concentrate behind them. At 8 kilometers out, a radar operator finally sees something, just a faint blip on the Pantsir S1 display. The speed is too fast for a bird, too slow for a missile, and far too low for any known aircraft. Instinct kicks in. He slews the electro-optical turret toward the bearing and switches to maximum zoom. Through the thermal imager, he sees it clearly. 4 rotors, a central body, definitely a drone, but smaller than anything in the threat database. Then he spots another, and another. His mouth goes dry as the count rises. 17 drones spread across a 3-kilometer front, all closing in. The range counter spins down, impact in just over 2 minutes. The operator doesn't wait for authorization. He slams the auto-engage button, bypassing safety interlocks. The first 57E6 missile roars to life, leaving a trail of fire as it accelerates to Mach 2.8. It streaks toward the lead drone, but something's wrong. The radar lock flickers. The drone's tiny radar signature confuses the missile's guidance system. At just over 2 kilometers out, the proximity fuse makes a decision. It doesn't see enough to detonate. The missile misses by 3 meters, close enough to rattle the drone with its shockwave, but not destroy it. Another missile launches, but the drone executes a sudden pop-up maneuver, climbing sharply, then diving, causing the second missile to lose track completely. Across the base, 3 other Pantsir S1 systems open fire. The night sky erupts in chaos, missiles streak toward targets, and 30mm tracers light up the darkness in golden arcs. But hitting a small, fast-moving drone at 3 kilometers is like trying to shoot a dart at a mosquito in flight. Most rounds miss by meters. The autocannon shells self-destruct after a few seconds, leaving only black smoke to mark their failure. The Tor M2 system activates, its phased array radar sweeping for targets, but it faces the same problem. The drones are flying below its minimum engagement altitude. Contacts flicker on screen. There 1 second, gone the next. Never steady long enough for a missile lock. At a 306, luck finally intervenes. One drone, during a mid-air turn, briefly exposes a larger radar profile. A missile's proximity fuse registers the increased signature and detonates. The explosion tears the drone apart, sending flaming plastic and debris raining onto the steppe below. But there's no panic, no disruption. The remaining 16 drones instantly adjust. Their AI doesn't grieve, doesn't hesitate. It simply recalculates the attack pattern, spreading out further to cover the lost vector. 1 unit down, but the mission continues undeterred. In this swarm, every drone is both expendable and essential. Their purpose remains intact, their code is clear, and they are now inside 3 kilometers of the target. At ZO 307, the swarm enters its final approach. Defensive fire has slowed, missiles are nearly depleted, and the autocannons are overheating. Gun barrels glow red from sustained fire, and hit probabilities drop into the single digits. The 16 remaining drones adjust formation with machine precision, spreading out even wider. Some climb to attack from above, others drop to skim the ground. Each one is locked onto a specific section of the fuel depot. There is no more need for coordination. They are executing their final instructions, uninterruptible and exact. The defenders can only watch now, their weapons nearly exhausted as the swarm prepares to strike with the cold certainty of a digital executioner. At exactly 0308, the lead drone slams into Tank 4. Its 3.2 kilograms shaped charge warhead, molded into an inverted copper cone, punches through 8 millimeters of steel roof like paper. The detonation occurs 0.3 seconds later, inside the vapor-rich space above 2,000 tons of aviation fuel. The explosion isn't a fireball, it's a high-order detonation, turning liquid fuel into expanding gas faster than the tank can contain it. The steel roof launches into the air like a 15-ton discus, landing 200 meters away. The tank walls peel open, releasing a torrent of flaming fuel. Within seconds, the fire engulfs the pipeline manifold leading to Tank 5. The chain reaction has begun. 10 seconds later, the second drone strikes Tank 1, followed by hits on Tank 7 and Tank 12. Each impact is precisely timed to maximize cascading failure. The depot erupts in synchronized blasts, roofs blown off, steel walls torn apart, rivers of flaming fuel pouring across the concrete berms. The automated fire suppression system kicks in, spraying foam at 10,000 liters per minute, but it's hopeless. In 90 seconds, the foam is gone, barely covering a fraction of the inferno. The radiant heat is overwhelming. At 100 meters, it reaches 50 kilowatts per square meter, hot enough to ignite wood spontaneously. Fire trucks arrive but can't get closer than 500 meters before their paint begins to blister. Beneath the burning tanks, the depot's underground pipeline network becomes a deadly conduit. Fuel from undamaged tanks continues to flow toward the blaze, feeding it like arteries pumping into a burning heart. Emergency shutoff valves, designed in the 1960s, begin to fail as seals melt and pressure builds. One by one, they collapse, adding thousands more tons of volatile fuel to the inferno. At 0318, Tank 6 suffers a BLE, a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. The tank doesn't just rupture, it detonates. The blast sends a shockwave across the base, scattering debris like shrapnel. This is no ordinary fuel. It's a specialized blend for strategic bombers, now turned into a weapon against its own fleet. This fuel wasn't just any aviation kerosene. It was a specialized blend used exclusively by Russia's Tu-160 and Tu-95MS strategic bombers. It's formulated to withstand freezing temperatures at 50,000 feet and cannot be replaced with standard fuel. With the depot destroyed, Russia's nuclear bomber fleet is effectively grounded. What took decades to build is rendered inoperable by a swarm of drones assembled from off-the-shelf parts. For the cost of a modest apartment in Moscow, Ukraine has crippled a critical leg of Russia's nuclear triad. Across the country, every airbase commander, from Murmansk to Vladivostok, is now asking the same question. If drones can fly 750 kilometers, what stops them from reaching Moscow next? This attack wasn't just a tactical strike, it was a paradigm shift. For decades, military power was measured in billions. Billion-dollar bombers, billion-dollar defense systems, billion-dollar bases. But in less than 10 minutes, a fleet of low-cost, low-tech drones exposed the vulnerability of that logic. They flew under radars, ignored jammers, and bypassed sophisticated defenses, not by outmatching them, but by sidestepping the entire system. The lesson is clear. Brute force is no longer the only path to power. Agility, autonomy, and intelligence, embedded in devices that cost less than a rifle, can now achieve what once took an air force. And for those still relying on legacy weapons, the future has already arrived. The message sent by the OSA drones was louder than any explosion. The age of traditional warfare is over. If a handful of plastic drones, built from cheap components and flying without GPS or human control, can bypass Russia's most advanced defenses and destroy a strategic fuel depot 750 kilometers away, then nowhere is truly safe. Moscow is only 700 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. The psychological impact ripples far beyond the flames at Engels. Every radar operator, every base commander, every defense minister must now confront a new reality. The next war won't be fought with stealth bombers and billion-dollar missiles, but with silence, code, and swarms that think for themselves.